Kutruore malumil tutao mali lutovi o mele klasus mora bekla adre bela o tira uk mosavaril lo bangedara lo yam lidiure al sils kida kutruulen giredan branga asulela rubaka diose diagon le blol mea agarior ma ayol tandi kadam la mesa talamal la bebi rablu ndi bela o ise selbak kadam mural wasa disi elang lungu aklamrar gidam sisi meng seliorta seldo mesra padrin gora ul dangalengan betul bela emro mrael el modibus meng kadam dimra sula dios ra dimnaga klon ar adal matamal diregal ngel mas nia temela storm mlodibus dimnos adam tikarim kadmal mana sudah Dios segera el sei kita awase gira sel kotel klol dal bangaria gira del mara lo mesa sengara gel talamal ngara gira del el mrea del matmok gira adrablu magada ngal tangata eli mlagira longeru lurior mlagira ngara skogil momli wekla di trialadra skogi awal da sen dekan lungila ya bakadmol oh I'm sorry eli mlagira Bligel ko turun ka na skogi mo mliyo klam na tibin mo lalak ayol magim lor airport gira mamma sa skogi gibong at cancel agi ome sangari ataw ma ngaral maral me dekal safe lo end up mo Wednesday ra tutaw sorry Tuesday ra tutaw ngamal tia mal na mo kumangal weekend ma igalsis na mo da sa igalsis sa tangari hindi ma elira tutaw emlo sabe del ngarsel skogi ra FFA se skogira al provider el programa ridra tuna ra Pacific el merbela al help ridra tora surveillance mlo giril mraer eli el return al murakwame se mor Australia mura uka service mang mlo se del tutar eli igadam lam liwak mang dimla kal qora skogin me o mesa ngodel toing mal dimle mesa o sengarat lamal rablu ngarayel klo tutrel mo akmal di mal murada ngayal dimla kasi kal mungil minister legor eli agam di kadam las kogi mal mlo la rudel sira the flyover rablu en wal gam lo klaro del mlo daga ngil communication dimlo klaro da sen dimla kal klo atal mal o yak de sem naria aral mal murablu mentil mal la dengi naria sesel drogok mil tamal ndi for the most part the compare del morahayan en mal ngodal siasing adun mesri ang gora diriga krina blu diriga gora ngila do mesri mang kada mlarse sweb gol duel morga yaura kada milibakra bela rogire of course agel blu ngara west coast amne tribal wal el cloa ayol temesois mun tribal cloa ada major al sel uk ani bebira blan mil tamal ding gada ngal tren dekal klo wa igel yol truk mlame rigidra ngaramong gida sel dangal tria togar salit lo se orgid maldim le wolele of course government Australia kini la se help rigidra assessment tur top do gimel telal eli ambassador ambrigela ase agi 100,000 sa Red Cross lo se ortigel uk ngara shelter ma igel family se uk sta taurol girel direga lulu ay sergida auka ambassador Taiwan lo hace anaria talamal ay gero togora wa tourist en cedros pa udodel el direga el trusel ukora promotion rababol el help pertigel uk restore ayem bolsa del nara okya galme mang ngayegida agora ngesul mlame direga el gida angal tangata shabala already mlania awal disaster preparedness kit 13 already ngarbela vaccine ngane container tin ngara PCC mong tidiri kalulay sida say mo biskama malis traigel mo spe mendimle eli totoda aklalo el cedro spe mong kadamran men asulera tigal partners gidra yan ngesulo meskid gida of course mla close avalment tercera Friday ndi tigal essential tiradra aurora tilob do aurora and I think sel to trail dul mesri sel kaltarreng ma blagarreng arbek lab el kadamot mura agrior anding sel bekla adat magaluron mat mokrablu من ضمن سير توتا كم سر هذا الكنرارا اللي يقولوا كل غرغرة ترى كلير تقدر له أدرى دينجي واسه مغرى الموت المريا دينجي مغرى الموت المريا رال من موريور of course PUC ما PNCC ما نمرين أو رير إندي أدرى بلور أدرى يقال state تدري يقال تيلو بدم تما كلنا يقال باشول لما سير تير سيا خلوتو تير غدوس بيرسل الكلاين سير جدار أدرى وقول المغل وايت جدار البول مقدمنا دي مريا سولار بكلا أدرى كيري السي NEMO ما of course تيجال partner إذا Red Cross أتمغل مروس الأسسمنت دي سيدة جيرة المروري مقدمة ده سيدة مرايل بدول جير من كلوتو تريلا later on وكتير discussion أكمل مستعد على Minister, Vice President, terengaya Chairman ng NEC, tumabos kita detail del report tergire la tialiol tama ayal impact sa ngi ma arogoy. Direkal so kala announce dal sil so kita amonia atele del submit sel reorganization bill sel ngia bill ergi del dulcado ngi mo create sel Ministry of Human Resources. Basically, السوم قضاء مثلاً غريس المينستري culture قضية change عن كليل المو ministry human resource culture tourism and development سيا مو باسم كليل من غريجل reshuffling عندي سيا غورا moving forward سيا مو باسم ministry hopefully أنا أدري أقول بيرا لا جيم من مستري لا تمورو الجيرة الأوكا regular session قديرة man mereka sulit kira lagi appointment, mai kira loro nam kat mokol mereka lange, uk moda sitial al mortir. Al sel segi del bila dire kal kada umasa kira sel streamline improve service ni ma tarabodoruria moldagara sel do modoria usually they refer to them trial ngara border lom kodor tia se CIQ. So sel da se CIQ in customs, immigration, ma quarantine. Kadomra la se ya will bal bible da rogo el ngar wila imol ministry ma mol tiro ngara border protection el da laurel el de claro the one el team el mangar asise balela garense la belwat among minister of finance selok bureau of custom amo expand mo bureau of custom and border protection el include ya gidel rogol lurior Adi lungi le baik ngawla lum sa chairman ng NEC, vice president, mang koram skida update regel tial typhoon surige sulang.
Malungit to tayo, Mr. President, Minister Obiang, Minister Uduch, Attorney General, Director Abdila Abolis, Agwan, Director NEMO, Director of Weather Service, Chief of Staff, other media. I see the Special Prosecutor is here too. Direk Lungil Tutao, and ladies and gentlemen, Malungil Tutao, and happy Wednesday. Direk Malurang Asulila, Diakon Romeo, Selkora mo Olaklanu, the Selong Ranglunguel, Sel Iliwil, Albada Selkmung Diakbok Itaw. Mang maraldim lakal tamuoy taro bakal Diyos sa mga reorgid mga meron kon maway sulwase latest update mlara PPUC mlak mardangar along angarar day kirokul hamlet sarang arong mangarar damla mukmar hindi lakasay lovely dilka tiaka powering mata timokut moklay kay kidyel alblay less than 15 homes angania tribal to kubet sa damage al moringi mang yakmal orang asuna la Mr. President ngay gidal mlaw ay sulwasay mirura say gidal assessment tali say gidyat at ngaringid al time the mirura initial damage assessment ma Mr. President mlo raskogi ra FFA lo bingela Director of Public Works Mr. Brian Malaydel direkal member tayidal NEC National Emergency Committee Yakuk Vice Chair Committee Minister Obiang awul bingela a direktora NEMO mlorang ayangal mang mo si Elmo reporter Sir Eli mlongo lo titrira bebira key personnel ra PNCC ma PPUC ma Ministry ra Health ma Direcal Red Cross mga dore nga suli ra beklogol adal la nga seortir most especially a state governmental lo nga seora tegit yel lo mga omngigi drara la mablu mang lo sabe el lokmar da dengi ma ral ma sabe el mloringi tilmutal mo melek lagi gid yel laldo presidente ng mal global kul do nga sulir tigal partners gid ang waigel mlamdo nga Australia mal memre ada other six gid yel logi mal tela lenia mo nga ser gid marura assessment global kul al mokatmok la sel initial damage assessment ya after sing mo sel comprehensive damage assessment ang wal two step sige nga mo sa mal identify wa say malwang ra sel extent ra damage eloyang dollar figure and more sige el damage al ngaringi al bleda sustain ngir tegi del typhoon mang red sige do dra Australia dar taltela from Amrigel al mora Red Cross may gigi del equipment el bitski dar adar shabal uling takordeng edi bolsi al mention ay gigi del klarbal lo dar sel mergid tul dar sa 10 al generators 20 water purifiers ma container al blilaral mal 500 pieces legal 10 liters al blilaran mal plastic mga sewa nga umrol may egida mal marungra wase ada mal mol mal selba akla sel kotal lesson learned moving forward sel bolla ka adengi el misisayol tang makarada sabi edal communicate segi dia wayal el qoramil lo diakal el tetere la communication segi de gire dal lo mesangil taram de klo el wayal al blol ta itu uterngi segi da bodo mesringi ngatianga director NEMO ma meteorologist al Maria Amay sam siren mo kuk update takti so kabolo tinga adrabalo leng makuningit ra krol de al Mr. President le media minister bi ang akok mo ay siral bolong dura adrang ayang alareli ding so kalo ay seleng Eschera National Emergency Committee ng so kabol blakatak kalwaseng mlaringi announcement al morabalo announcement tawlumo Monday April 12 ra 2021 ra 3 o'clock ra 2000 mlaringi abat bakor dal 10 announcement sa tilo badara au era la may say gidiel pa al typhoon ra utotara Friday mlaringi ra Wednesday April 14 2021 ra 1:30 AM mlaringi ra Wednesday April 14 2021 ra 3 PM mlaringi ra Thursday April 15 2021 ra 12 AM mlaringi ra Thursday April 15 2021 ra 6:30 AM mlaringi ra Thursday April 15 2021 ra 10 AM mlaringi ra Thursday April 15 2021 ra 3 PM mlaringi ra Thursday April 15 2021 ra 7 PM Thursday April 15 2021 ra 10 PM eng mo Friday April 16 2021 ra 1 AM segit selmle akmo eng ultoy segit yang miligida ba iniisi akmo ay sulo sangara al sel segit el special statement ring tabutokar mga ulwasi ramen tim lakam tur ka mam megib siga pateri egim katmoklo otela megim se egim katmokla iremono lo aral maringi ramen tim lakam lokoy megib rastoang egim nga kansume egim siga ta tri rangal ka matte kaidel nga langal lentim laka ata tri re tiaka avengi tiagi diamle weather statement el tilo badersel lo aigel time el tilo badamle progression maklisi elayol tel manalme mangaria tilo dal announcement mga ka mlomad ato ra rubol bela ra eli lo bengkela o kardeo Dr. Patrick Telay le vice chair committee minister be ang hamlarang ayangan mak mlol mo update tertir yawan ra roba mo kala sa kamaman lek kaltmok la ayim lem tingi may gimil ngatmok ra kamam lang lanya announcement tirkal mega karela adal mal ngani kay kiti el clock little sa il low spe ngara man tim la kalo tingi mang paningel wase klo at ko rabulul wase timla ka at tokoel tuwa hindi kay kidi ay kel mle weather statement el tilo bada mang damle madangli omrol layol sel loko ngit mon trajectory say kidi el waya to ko ra dimla ka expect taningin dimla ka barul kap leka barul kape pa imaral betul kit erek mom area ang kita le meteorologist Maria Amay sama direktor NEMO tal amo ngils moti akti so kan makataklil wase agi NEMO ma weather bureau rirula ngar alel gilt mo klaso bata mga akti re kaloreng sulwase tamal criticize ra NEC lelong dia kaigel kaltmok kalwaigel ngarakwa mel domes akum daswet adal the more menga sangari adal because raigay the special weather statement etam le prepare igay the progression tial liol tamadao ay gay the lula bemlo sibiral adequately prepare mong mal so kal dingon mersegi the mal meron kal mo onya rangi dilgera media after say ema ekwa olagyong el ang Mr. President tati lungit ko kumara kaya dali Vice Chair NEC Minister Obi ang mabukupolong ito ginela assessment ra ay kaya dali ayan
sulang Vice President President Amaral Tilob dara with the Clora tutor Elil mora aras ko gil mom liwek lamagi borang ayang Eliet amle ko telgel loge ringa se kom dang lage karel sko kil ko ram nami miliwek tial beluma dia gim sal medang alien di ko maral waseng president tergi dama amaral lo mesra belur el ara ko ngaral sila skogi adi away men amo meski da telgi bel diter tial triple nol ding ra adrang ayang eli mara other ayel different agencies no sabe el ngoiti triral mo adi so dal sharing wasing seragibong yang kadam dingel wasar at sel kora motmura al sela albule bong en telgibel kora dia kado dinge choser til wasing girelger dibl oil kora di kimno matigaringil wasing malne wila spirit ra adrablu tamnara sita resegi del ragim arrival yang marala clean up rapical silsa spiger ma har adro olbil adang tangat lang tamnar say o sisul time ay gel gukne observation rigi darabalua wa gel molkoy it's a different siya singi mahayan sira alabong ma kim no sumama mendire kal remolia al selabalu o mesablay ma talom akmal dire kal al share al wasya governor ma tirgel adal ngarabalu abay dire kam lo koduro wad gora milang da urtil waseng milo da communication regider sera kapsingera Thursday kimne hopel waseng komne kaltmokla en dire kal maran le seri gidel waseng da mama adim le Tuesday aking ma word mo madenge el waseng aringa ate alal mo ayol talmud mo masesra throughout rawiga man agi milangat mo karamaman sira loral makapsingera Thursday aki lo inform ra adem norsel typhoon shelter school material ko kumnorable la hensel engge diragal mal sisi ablile ungil play matuk no ulderong same kada maral ngal tangatel dim nakaatal matamal mal ubeng korak klol ko dior klot albangani gulingit te president pa sa a director toimal sebel share igel detail material different agency gim de la kal molding
sulang minister vice chair isi manu tutar president sama vice president manulang atyang Wagal ko Minister Obiang ang memo niya alam mo ra plurong ayang. Dila kalmo partner agencies sa mlaring PPUC, ma PNCC, ma hospital, ma other Red Cross. Ngalto the President tamno sa edo kut maklisil assessment ta plurong ayang. Masila dabo ng lop titira other Red Cross et mlemetnya daital mong telal blay amil tamal madim na kasal matamal Michael nges soldula balmong amlo atter rekel kategori ra impacted ti mnos edre mo cycle mo adang ayang eli PUC mnos il assess ra extends ra telamal ma telal sil sing to da etra PUC il mo omkar ta blong ayang selbi sitrigi de elin no ra blong ayang nos ela PNCC restore local services sa blong ayang mang agi ngasel nga rasital mo do ra leadership mar ada blong ayang di siral restore communication wagi diplom local lang til abs message ma email tir mbay no se ka ma minister ma renters ang ayang mo o may cycle korabasyon ra blong ayang ing waigal ko minister ang adang tangat ndim lakal salklo telmal wahayan akel ko nos edel mesel lo telmal da adsta matal oblil adigel ko ra ultob do kung koyang ngalal ngala sa indigel el primary dwelling dim lakam tamal mong ko dimle kegi da ko ra to services nos pedal restore tel omole del bora blong ayang re eli
Son mo
Andaldi mintu tawer roguem lamdu kora umrengal saul ma kora welcome ra ada makti multirak karingi akti so kalau mutulo ay sura se agi mle kaltmok sel time ready gile lawai tegi del le tropical depression emo tropical storm emo o typhoon unfortunately I'm let lagi belge kate bata emleng like we said agi diri route al sela 12 hours or sel time from one to another ang lo o gimlo kawkotong other NEC mot magi mo start rol to ba gale statement magimlo ay gel gotul kuro babel sa amam ekidam dingen lo siga atikingela rubakal diosol di sa edel wadanga information lo ay srabalu and di sel wal trakaringi maluben sel lo moronel talyol ta di sab edel predict ringil more certain extent sab edel mesang lo spe amsil masaygi del time ram utu tawral al golar adra hawai ma kwamla se tiam lamo start al move al west northwest agi lo start al mal aswal wasing namo time gire del move al smisi ide ngartialo maklat ka adra blu kita dim dingel wasing sel time already namo dia katengi mabato ka adra belam lo dia kal sa iloreng sa subdel regal update maktiri ka lumral wasya ulmar adam lo dia kal sal matinge update mal ubeng ngoray gal subdel tob drangarel belaw ngim lem lo ka tengi endi ako mumlew lo ka tengi ako maral wasya adam lew redil girel tiadim lamdan ra ongeru luroleng start ay gidel statement tel tob ma update tel morar ad maktiri ka lumral wasya adam le ngariya te elil lorengs emot mo kortil girel mal sugu mungu kora dimle gida sab egal kmu al sugu mangariya question ra leirel girela u mala midiak mo ra gel gotet kura babel sab egal el answer sulang
continue rabra germanger the tool updates from Minister of Finance and Minister of Justice lebak maska kabong Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just let the public know that last week we submitted our quarterly report to Congress, and it shows that our revenue collections are a little ahead of schedule. We collected about 60% of our local revenues. And because we have been careful with our expenditure, in general, expenditure levels have been about 40% of the budget, compared to expected 50% at half the year at the end of March. This is good news, and I think we need to continue to be careful with our expenditure and not spend frivolously. We have a very conservative budget this year, not anticipating any recovery. So any recovery in the sealed corridor flights or any other business that we can have in the meantime will help boost our revenues. Until then, we still take a cautious approach to the budget. So remember, local revenues are only making up less than 40% of our budget. The rest is borrowed money and money from our reserve. So we still need to be careful and control our expenditures in anticipation of preparation of our budget for next year. So this is just a short overview of the report that we submitted last week. And we have a lot of details here, but generally that's the picture of where we are as of the end of March.
Thank you, Minister. Last time na sokal wala di update kita la Minister of Justice. So first ako ulan sa Director agwan mo wala di ay sige kita best program ring. Bolong mo.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, Ministers, and ladies and gentlemen. Dahil bulis sa time mamla sort of assess masingalang aringi, ngarang sangset, mga regal role gilid kutmok. Talaklo ringi at tagid safe streets or safe highways, DUI enforcement, mga gimna dedicate our mutual baby resources more segid. Leng soma impaired driver au eral boring accident a crash. Ngani aludol gilela DUI, dili ka ngani aludol gilela open container. Mong sabedam da miraw eral base strike gidol olang. Dili ka ngani tiagidle public intoxication, mandili ka ngani resources giblam divertal morse. All in the name of trying to prevent claw mandiakala happen. Mandiak masigi reactive in nature ending mal claw te elam prevent claw logi enforcement gere. So segi the concept. My galbalu especially legal state. Ada di mandiak masing diaka mal presence national police legal state. Manganya real al trial osmilisegi del gap. Adalolela rangers, aluptirale pan officers, makamam national police, mansama motmag mangarabalu, maging arabalu, edire kang ara national level. I hope kita mo translate mo safer Palau and safer Palauans. Mr. President.
Yeah, I'm sure director sa program umural wase important kada dekal soda masimra adra galbus. That's not the point enforcement radio ay. Kadom klart kadra blu wase be safe. Find the designated driver. Sige aklo tutelel mral klo albo le malek the orthopedic surgeon rigid mesel por hospital and madirigan man mringet. Dirigal mlesadan mutial teal dirigal oisra au kumle urior umral asemble NEA ma human trafficking ma SP au uriol girel el girel a sele harvest hotel online gaming case. So first of all, namomerek sel case, ngaregel niya wal blel the confiscate. Mung elal sil se muria gora tribute to handover. Oh, I'm going to ask them to come and explain. Yeah. Maybe you can come and explain all the items a little bit. SP. Okay. Oh no, you need one on the radio.
Good morning. We're happy to be here. I wanted to hand over what we have prepared already for use for the Palau. Just to remind you, we had detained earlier in 2020 62 Chinese nationals. We convicted 58. 3 of them had left Palau before we got a chance to file in court, and 4 were dismissed for various reasons. 1 still was dismissed, which we can come back again should that person ever show up in another case. The inventory of what we have to turn over this morning, if you could reach that back, Mr. President. And we're happy to turn this over. We don't want it in our possession anymore. But there are $87,413 received. 1 Chinese or Vietnamese dong, which is only worth 43 cents. So, but it's here. We couldn't change it. I will say Bank of Hawaii was helpful to us because we ran all the money through their machines to make sure none was counterfeit. 1 showed up counterfeit, a $20 bill, but it could also just be such a dirty bill that it doesn't read. So we will be turning that over to the U.S. Secret Service to have them check it for us. We also are turning over 4 $2 2-day internet cards, 11 unused SIM cards, 74 cleared phones for use. Those phones, the data was downloaded so that we can analyze it. We had assistance from other law enforcement agencies, and now all those phones have been cleared and they're ready to be set up for use, however you decide to distribute those. Right now, 20 of the laptops have been cleared. We took out all of the data that was in there. We had assistance in providing all new updated current software. And with each laptop, there's a backpack, a mouse padding, and cords. We still have 44 computer laptops to clear, and we still have 93 cell phones that we need to clear. In addition to that, there's 7 backup batteries, which I think we all need here. There's 7 CCTV cameras, 31 routers, 42 surge protectors, 27 cable extenders. I'd never seen them. It looks like a strange yo-yo. Then there's also some batteries, power banks, and phone adapters. I wanted to say that this wasn't the result of the OSP. The result of this, the success of this case, really happened because of the assistance that all of us did together. Sandra Day O'Connor, U.S. Supreme Court Justice former, says we don't accomplish anything in this world alone, and whatever happens is a result of the whole tapestry of one's life and all the weavings of individual threads from one to another that creates something. And in this case, that's exactly what happened in Palau. We worked with the Foreign Investment Board, with 2 of the investigators, Jolanda Warren and Jade Misse. We worked with the Anti-Human Trafficking Office at the time. That was Director Jennifer Anson and Detective Sergeant Rickley Antonio. And with our office, especially with Helinda Oime, who is here, and also Ms. Clarong Rickett. But we also worked with BPS. BPS showed up and assisted us in containing the search warrant because it was a lot larger than we expected it was going to be. But with everybody lending their support together and working together, that's what allowed us to have a successful case. That's what allowed us to go ahead and in a few days' time charge all the individuals, get them to plead, and as a result of their plea, that's where the forfeiture came up. It was part of the plea agreement that everybody agreed to, and they were all represented by an attorney. So their rights were protected, but so were the rights of the Palau. And upholding the law was one of the big things we wanted to show, that we actually could enforce every law that exists here in Palau. And so that included this particular gaming occurrences of online gambling that was happening. The officers who helped us, and I may mess these names up, from BPS were Sergeant Sabino Kyoto Jr., Officer Jerisi Otorong, Officer Vahid, and I'm going to mess this up, Bekatot, is that right? Okay, and Officer Thomas Tale. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that helped us in this. And even Bank of Hawaii helped us, like I said, with the money. Obviously, the court helped us when they came back and found everyone to be guilty as charged. Anti-human trafficking was able to look into one particular case. It was a juvenile. She came here when she was 16. She was 17, and we were fearful that there was trafficking involved. So anti-human trafficking worked with her. And everyone in our case, everyone in our case has returned to the People's Republic of China as a result of the plea agreement and after having paid their fines. So again, we just want to say thank you. We're looking forward to turning over the rest of the material as soon as we get it cleared and set up again for use. And I'm sure the Attorney General will be able to inform the President as to what you can and can't do with the money and where it goes from here. And thank you for taking this out of our hands. But anyway, I just want to say thank you. We're happy that we were able to do this for Palau, and we look forward to working with all of the agencies again for some of the future cases that we know are coming our way. Thank you.
Thank you. As we know, we don't have any tourists coming in, so Minister of Finance is very happy to receive this money to help. And, you know, I think really what we confiscated should really go back to help law enforcement. And that's something that the OEK can look at. And it's at least helping the AG's office and BPS and everybody that's involved in helping them. But the materials, the plan is to give them to Ministry of Justice and also MOE for if they can use them. But they will go to good use, and we appreciate the teamwork and the efforts that were put into making this case. So thank you. With that. Oh, the one last thing from Mr.
President Kamsulang maldi ulaklat kalmora blue was egel landslide ra ngaklau sel klo lowro ringire lang tirida adadara lowro ringila ma ongedera klose dire kaliora kantilayang aden kukmo soro uror endi tamalas merel alsil setut makli yang ari sil ngarbitaringil maldi gegari dire kalbol kot makli egel restaurant landslide president ra giuklmat hospital amla makatmokla sel krakaraira ngartmau ablada kampak teringi adadara CIP amal mal monitor settlement teringi egadam umdas will gire la more permanent lurol mori endi ganga portal ay miara ngatmo accessible kadimo kauklat kulwasa dabong kadamo soro ngari adara urore bolsi la nair gidara mo mami ay gamal familiar Salvador ngulmay sira weekend president say
dida kalo ay sa sel in the runway
oy
siragim sebgare gulmasim la collapse sel fence ra in the runway
oy
ngora maran mending adakali meren sem bukas mo di sa minister
oy dia kam sulang president maran laringa ne collapse sel in the runway ding ilo perimeter fence director akon and din dirga ka agimesal impact ringira runway rigid dirga safe ndi ga girel makatmok klalo mamre der time le lagi ngom di ringin me bedula runway ma tirgel mo marara kapsinge ang safe runway
Matakamal misala Mr. Presidente boka wa closures report ra NEC malgura nga sulia adrabelura karore nga kamiu akmadingel wasing sel initial preliminary report lora president o ay sulasem laria o kadel alblael miltamal destroyed mga damadingel wasing nga adal mlom tarbsri lang sila baka adwela pliri mlom miltamal pliri madamalolita kalore nga adrablo kaya nga sew moving forward mo help para adra blue bela tirgel bil tamal la dalang clear tegi del typhoon Surangel sa ida report ko rin isi ngariya daily press release at tuwa drabe kalsils from NEC mang look out for ideal updates so Mr. President
Maluay siyang asap edalo mo ra germanger ma bato mo ra olgril edora el maliwekla.
Kambrali. Brale Blas. Ngil tutaw President question na nga ka girela tel travel bubble. Understand the wasang mle kel after initial flight ng mle 14 trikel mle raigel. Tululia kulle le kilas almo 51, correct me if I'm wrong. And then mlo nga cancellation ra flights mong mlo dia kalme. What's the update last el press conference ya chairman ra PBM lo mention ay gel girela pela lo gela Taiwan mok through the TVC mak tio gel wasang ko nga update el gel sir. Thank you.
So yang malungi lager ngari flight el merela and unfortunately from what we know they are tourist ngari. I think there are several factors. One kadam nem ngali sel issue ra adra Taiwan sel return mle wal ngari quarantine tir table wal restricted movement tir. So the good news before typhoon churige nurtbda the swella CEC ra Taiwan wa se move to say. So that's one of the hurdles el ble walo le iqrar من دخل سوري البغل دخل سوري المونغ فابيز داسي لو. So same la move and then so with that مريا typhoon مرada دريغل مضغط الميل ngari typhoon that was initially what we heard as I said so مريا typhoon tamle cancel a booking certificate which makes sense. De goberbelang typhoon. You don't know what the situation would be. We're hoping and was a statra sarudel mo and continue our tourist el mutel resume el May. Hindi ko kung irti al flight because China Airlines amle commit regular ngari dori tuladal toder belal muraguru dori tu ame 21 amrael. So de kadong ina sen mantring di tiadi regular mo instead rotator ade continue no guru. We didn't have to charter the flight. Say that that's when I said say yes, there are challenges. We have to work with both sides and come up with solutions and help the tourism bubble. The important part there's flights, they continue and we continue to resolve again. Yeah, the thing was saying for example, PCR testing. That alone is $400, both by doing it both ways. Close expensive, the way to the mitigation. So I think those how do we come up with better ways of solving that problem? Going forward, at least bring down the cost of it. I hope I answer a question. Yeah, sure.
Malungil tutaw, President Vice Mayor Club. Regarding the recent storm typhoon, sorry, Vice Maloko mentioned wala say lesson learned, say the communication need to be strengthened. This is not the first time that we've had this kind of storms. Maral medical change trajectory ringi malung change aklisi ngaringi say I'm sure lati ringi more over the years ngaringi ngara ko ra mesangal mo tara we sa pamil informer properly other ilang al to kortira na mo ta kalo rasyo leng kal cellphone nga niya rasyo ringi mang sel katomoro murtolo si karasyo kung dasang adir kang namo ta kalo tara rasyo kal stoang so ngara ko ra may sang alwan rawe mil lot of the information in morabalu raway kay gidel mal ko ra kuso ko talal time urgent I guess for both of you.
Ma'am sulang ra ungil gir Tokora emergency management Misinura gel mo with and communication ngara internet ngara radio ngara email ngara fax positura gi fladra rokul information channel ra gagi del sobada manganya fax sa state office may moral tour companies, but the challenge remains ra angel end user receiver tel message. Of course, we're limited to what is available. We're looking into mass texting through PNCC, but then there's the idea that not all people are accessible in my cell phone. What we're learning now is comment not radios are not very accessible at this time. So agilabay mo tribal focus ra social media. Alor to ba Facebook o malumeng igil accessible mo at that time. But procedure also has remained the same at the fax, especially again outlying states at the call to make sure that they receive. Mang agagi dawagi mo kot ilang. Of course, there's always room to improve and make changes according to the circuit demand ilang. So as we are getting this assessment, at mamre kot mokli final report del mora president, agi daw mo sabi lo mes agel protocols, ma procedures, adjust, review mo ater a senior kito ko comments ni.
Good morning. Initial assessment says that the damages are in millions. So the comprehensive assessment, how much? What are the estimates going around the country? Is that 2 million going to increase the damages, estimates of damages? And the second question is, what kind of help is coming to the people who are impacted by the typhoon?
Yeah.
Thank you for a question, Rakaw. So, sa the initial damage assessment more completed by this Friday. And isil tabdi a preliminary report al Mr. President al-saygid yam identify 30 homes is ila igid al-ura dira kalmlara al-sil. This by the end of this week, we'll do initial damage assessments from all state governments coming in, and then next phase would be the comprehensive damage assessment. That's when you actually go into the villages, identify was say ngaral structures amil tamal. I think you actually telal ba sile baka so that based on that comprehensive damage assessment. Then we'll be able to actually have a dollar figure on the total damage that was sustained because of this typhoon. I was asked when I mix. So during my, and I've advised Mr. President and Minister Uduch of this. When I met with Rubac, the Rubul Vela Council of Chiefs yesterday, and I asked to meet with them just update their theory or I still was riora malara belumiu o I still was mga tertelaw rior tegi del black o I stringil was a mlaringa preliminary report the makme provider say del kapira preliminary report del presidenta Kirul Mestri o ay suwaseng momrega initial by this week ang area comprehensive kita malmom ng lisel total amount ra damage of the sustainary tiro oge nga kalwasing mga ringa uto dra governmental moral adal tira malamil tamal ra kablirir makmulasing ato ko ramal aburo lagi detial malalon ra ADB lorur tra government malde ko din mga niya ko ra madeda es ludo del elon ngosar adanti tilakmal kariola representative republic ma minister of finance al wasing niya ko available sa elon ngosar so what I can say now when you ask wasing aral help tisabi ekal wasing ultur tirkay gidel partner sergidal tamal masaula sel mlethimra al presidente la decisa portial bes el government a family segi dia reng a lobang at gagi del partner sergi matamal nemre lor dar sangeso may gagi da report el dol tobada segi del mo comprehensive wabol final al mo osngele ablu wal wasik maltelang sel value mal ubeng total damage hopefully seguida se edal autoiringi o lingitang seortir gaidial el tira family in the international community so seguida agora Google o singela NEC agulita president and minister of finance was ira ko pal ed honor seguida question lo say a help pang ngarigil me.
Just in regards to the initial assessment of 2.1 million, of course, there's still ongoing work and detailed assessment will be coming out. We need to understand that a lot of that money that they're talking about is really for infrastructure. That's where the biggest damages are. The rain caused a lot of damage, and it caused a lot of damage to PPUC, PNCC, and of course, our roads and infrastructure. So, of course, we'll be looking for help. The question is, do we have money? Of course, we don't have money. That's a simple answer. We're living off loans because we're still in another crisis, and this is another crisis on top of that. To help the people with their immediate needs, that's why we have Red Cross, and we're thankful for the United States government giving $100,000 to Red Cross to reach out to those individuals that have lost their homes or their shelter, and I think that's the immediate help that's going out to help them, and then we assess and we look at other ways to help them. But that's the current plan, and we'll wait for the final assessment from NEMO. But thank you for the question.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President Maribel Clark. Question nga President, amora tokora IQPB. Sira leadership meeting in Legal Maclol tokat kilo para speaker Sabino Anastasio. Direk mention ngira house session sira April 13. Masawa tara Claul Albiru kung malubang corruption ng ngara sila IQPB. At tingin la waseng amat ng liya adang ngara sila urior hindi ndia kasual moduli angak hindi ngomes tingin waseng mal kora corruption. Makari ka osisiu time hindi regal tingin ra staff ra IQPB waseng kora man na molo moral tirle yal accusation ng mga IQPB kora dira kalto na board and management el fight el defendra aurior ra IQPB tirkat staff kora nakasibil makari ka two parts ako tesel top sa information ra speaker el wasay mesa nga klol albiru kung magtitel tetelaw rin nga sa office sel information ng kada makararang sing agirela la police mo investigator ng SP ng AG second part ra question awasi since ang mal ko alo moral ra IQPB board and management ra IQPB das when giril metto del mer public explain themselves sa accusation not to del hindi kay dito sula.
Well, there's two things. First of all, I don't know what the speaker is talking about. Yung tingin speaker. I think appropriate let's say help pagi del toa. Of course, abla police ma SP. Those are two areas that they can go along. Area public auditor direct at some area accusations, and I think that's the appropriate mechanism. Of course, the independent board. So you're right. Ang giral nga board of management. Well, if there's an issue at the giril welcome a public hearing. Let's have them have a public hearing. Albong al ask a question or body investigation. So that's of course effort kita. We should always encourage transparency. Ang due process. I think important sa sige del deka barrot la kung sa IQPB deka nga lomart So I'm sure they welcome investigation, public hearings, and that's what I was trying to remind the other Olbira, leadership meeting. I say, "Oy, tigda te alla logger again, but you are welcome anytime." And rangi the agency, the government, neutral, ask up all question. Public hearing, I want to process. We process it by the level, mal territory. Of course, and the media is there also. You're welcome to go interview them, but I think we should always encourage. Of course, ang complaints are time. That's normal, and we should be ready to respond. Answer ang idil question on here. Sula. Yeah. O law moral. Ngayon nga kasi atiwala din nga rapid time. Mangira dal di mo maklon mo de bay mal mering asuli lo ase as public servants they come gida dimru raurere de lo tirak rayel do moral lo ase mal tokoy lakad sal concern lo ase yeah I would encourage them ase keep doing your job the best way you know how. Other ablu understand. May say sometimes in more questions it's our responsibility to answer them, and then maybe we can do better from those questions. And I think sige da by close to tell mo all my life maybe let's help them understand it's okay to have thick skin, and unfortunately public service is that way. We have to have thick skin and be able just to concentrate on our job. Sometimes saying we get focused on the little things, but let's just do our job, see how we can do it better, provide our service and morablu, because ultimately that's who we serve, and just do what we have to do. And nobody's perfect. And so we all we make mistakes, but let's understand also. We make mistakes, we learn from them, we move on, and most important is what did we learn from yesterday? How can we improve for tomorrow? And ultimately, the goal should be helping the people. So, Surang. I said that's what EQPB is trying to do. So, Surang.
Sula, Mr. President. Naringi apabil ngela Administrator of Social Security, Morat Chairman of WIOA. Lolingit teringim el appeal en Moram Rigel. Bol sabel gongera Social Security meloreg Rigel. Le tax deductibles Rigel udo da WIOA. Imlangiat tigingem el kilo da press conference. Na singiredo lo tiriklial ulabluram Rigel. Imaigal udo da Mr. Aderbela. Ulo Isaac Mogomo reimbursed nangara 2 million. Social Security Administrator Macau Pomkau Dange Malubeng Guktitir and Lamot Mage Oregadaigal Lududira.
Okay. Hindi ako malungila question ng Mr. Trump sa sirada nga press conference kada mal di milsa da sir nga la national government. Sel income tax sel bleda collectriel 1.8 million, almost 2 million. Siya number dulus peri. Sel uk nga Social Security issue Social Security. Now, argument of course era Social Security was iga benefits wal trialado maara insurance at retirement benefits mase giril discussing yima sel agency ram rigel tirul top da galudo de waseng ngrasel mo final lul de swil giril di gumran wase opposition or national government tabla tak lagdam dayon wase ayel tax be da collecta giril the return we say AG Minister of Finance. So that's say not a process, and that's the plan. And the amount is almost 2 million, 1.8 something, right? Yeah.
Sula, Mr. President, the question amora Attorney General. Gagda espilulu Isaac mutam lamum sisiya selgeisra. Internet gaming. Di ako ko rafalo abel mom direct la sekiratum le turist. Palu general business amle. Agamodate tire to perform agagidal illegal activities of Lurvela. Palu vegerdi mo segide oy. Naria urol mo follow up agal illegal activities of Lurvela.
Ngari Aurel Marale, Mr. Talam, sang diado guktil sa igidil imol guys ra special prosecutor guys gidila online gambling. Dira kalmal ngari ang obisa attorney general. Tegid sel giblom kaw monda ringid guys. Luwasen di al gidil law ngaraal. Ending guk mla momre ka guys ringi mangkagidal mla otto bata ay gel guk tretele laurel. Nga ka feel wasen ulure ringi. Mal sugumen soal follow up people follow up la si tirgal at ngari gel. Ya kung das hindi rin kulmilo ko, luwas si Monster Tiram lato belaw. So, sige daw ko kenji. Agit tablol kakaraw sa lobbies.
Well, maybe ako di help. I think a question na Mr. Talam sa si mang trialat tamlar belal wangara tetelir. Umra lo say all those people that were in Palau were tourists. Why say? A tourist. And their visas were extended at Tirakantinun Garbelao. Magumra la se wana doruri relaltam egia gadatral chegal regordra immigration and telmal. Remember akna wana a press conference announced was 1,800 teladan artial yaluk to the immoralist at 600 telang dexamusen telang but there's some number mang aurora giren marara and they're currently doing it. They're trying to clean up Rabuk immigration and Talmal. Let's say Kadib Taklo saying that's the issue. Hindi tirigigidil bel announcer til tirem lo da mamna to der bela roy. So
Kabang aloril.
Just one quick question. Wangara uror tialbe eselbli la kalbusul morangirang sare katakura rirang sira last week luasang ngarang atra malgiang al kalbusul ili sa tilo badra blila kalbus. Thank you.
Sulang kotrule maybe a director asel handler sendi kotrule ndi kami da congratulate tiro sen di tilo bad afternoon tungu maldim lemre ndi selbe esel bla kalbus adi sodol wase same level to regal grant I mean local funding gadom gadorri the taramle requester gidal mora blura tayo ase for humanitarian purposes and gidam ring gid osiga grant el mura bla kalbus retra se tiago da kalungil tokoy and the tamla ko ase for humanitarian purposes et mo help gidal funder sel remaining el lurior mang continue auror we're hoping ase by next year at na mo marek. We still need another 2.5 million. Hindi ko siya kumlamang sa site, hindi siya kadalala urior. But that's the progress ra urior. Mang continue construction and we know we need a new facility. That I think has been in the plan and we're going to use grant money finishing. We're rotan mariatal sabet. At sumsam dia the director girela inmate.
Medigo wise masingay gidile inmate Amador Osima gaygida Ilis kaya gidil mlawi line na Blair Bullis akmal credit ringik masisaya nemred recapturing ringi len namo tokal Bullis namo so amil guk detail rawan team respond gagidil maklo rengal issues so Maldimlet 20 minutes. Sera router bebula adwel rangasi. El mor sera lungura butile. Acti credit tial l'effort al streamline e improve la services mablur belal president tamle lain sulang.
My question is to NEC and NEMO and maybe the weather. So this typhoon, and because of climate change, this typhoon has a potential for weather events to intensify. So moving forward, how do Palau or the residents be better prepared to address or respond to the extreme events? And to Mr. President, you have spoken to the international media about threats of China, threats of the COVID-19 pandemic. do you consider climate change as a biggest threat to the country as well? Because the typhoon exposed how fragile the infrastructure of the country.
Thank you very much for the question. It goes without saying that preparedness remains our best tool against disasters. Every year, September is declared National Preparedness Month. This is not a new issue of preparedness, but I think this brings to the top priority that we need to continue public education, public awareness, outreaches to different parts of the country, all over the country, to ensure that, one, we educate them on the tiers of cyclones and what to expect in different tiers. So, but this is not just the responsibility of NEMO and NEC. It's our individual responsibilities to make sure that we get updated and that we get in line with what the rest of the region is doing. I mean, disasters is not something new to the region, but this is just an opportunity for us to request for more funding, to do more public outreaches and public campaigns, and really build a stronger relationship with state governments to ensure a smooth and more fluid communication during peacetime and during emergencies. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may add more sa gital discussion. So, Bernadette, I support what's been stated by NEMO coordinator, and ongoing maybe community preparedness is important. Was that in 2019 that the Center for Women's Empowerment, Belao, I'm the president of that nonprofit NGO, got a grant from UN Women, a $300,000 grant, and we were able to go to the states that were affected by Haiyan. And we went into the communities and we talked to them about preparedness. And one of the tools that we gave them was a Tupperware that had, and canned goods, all these items that we need to have for these very type of situation that we encountered with the tropical storm that then became Typhoon Surangel. And it was also education on having at least a set amount of water to be reserved, and food items. So there was a discussion with about 10 states. We went to Cayenne, Peleliu, Angar, and states in Bubble Dab that were affected by Haiyan. So maybe that has to be an ongoing work. We got grants to do that, and Mr. Tua has just said that we probably need to look for grants to continue this preparedness for the community. So thank you for that question. I think it really boils down to being prepared as individuals, as families, for these type of storms and disasters. So, Mr. President, question.
So this morning I was on that's kind of the reason why I was late this morning. There was a Micronesian Challenge forum celebrating 16 years. And of course that's talking about marine protected areas, really sustainable use and really the importance of conservation, right? Of marine and terrestrial areas. But of course part of that discussion also gets into climate change. And I think this is just another example of what's happening. We had 2 typhoons back to back, and they were in the month of December, November, right? Now, this one is in April, which is not normal for typhoons. This is not the normal time of the year for typhoons. So one of the things that I had a chance when I was talking to other leaders about is we live it every day, and we need to take action locally and do our part, right? So I think one of those efforts that was started was, for example, try to reduce our greenhouse emissions through partnerships, solar panels, but doing our part, I think, is very important. And how do we reduce our carbon footprint? Because we cannot tell other countries, oh, you need to reduce, and we're not doing our part. So we need to lead by example. And, Micronesian Challenge is a great example of how that raised awareness and getting people to value marine protected areas. So a lot of other areas have followed the Micronesian Challenge. So we need to be doing the same thing when it comes to climate change. We should be taking a leadership role. And so since I have the opportunity, we can talk about PIF. So in the membership of PIF, we should, as Pacific Islands who are impacted most by climate change, that should be at the forefront of what we should be promoting. And I hope that our friends at PIF continue that line of thinking, because the most impacted and the most vulnerable are really these small islands, which are the Micronesian islands. And that's one of the reasons I think why we should be leading PIF at this time. And so that's why I think the advocate for our Micronesian brother from the Marshall Islands, because if anybody gets impacted the most from climate change, it's those islands. And really, that's a statement that we need to bring to the world. So thank you for the reminder. And I think climate change is here and it's with us, and we have to adapt to it, and we have to take a leadership role in it. And I hope the forum going forward will also take a lead in climate change and not just talk about it. So, thank you.
If I may, that I just want to inform, and I'm happy to say that I work with Palau Red Cross, and through the Green Climate Fund, we were able to acquire 300,000 to continue the project that the Madam Vice President talked about. So we will start pursuing the remaining states in May of this year. So we'll be done maybe early next year. And that's very good for Palau too.
Question na kala mo ra NEMO ma wede. Akti try mo understand ra ikal level of preparedness. Nako sa amal da kaptire at para wede ang old fashion. Isera ureng sa ikal weather statement tino de gagi tulmas a Vice President. Ara typhoon watch upgrade mo ra typhoon warning. Ureng sir siya udosya kadir wasi. Adir ang amot to ano siya katong ara condition 3, katong ara condition 2, katong ara condition 1. Yang already in train na siya kasi ara condition 2 karak prepare. May siya gid ko ati diak makpasimatat kal APS tile typhoon watch katong mat typhoon 1. Amem ko experience siya kasi namada katong experience siya gid typhoon. That's important.
Oy malungil kay Mr. Campes. Cell I get typhoon condition cell 4321. Condition 3 tool morawan. Adi mo differences niya hours. 36, 24, mat 12. Aigal na mo miracle typhoon rahayan na mabofa. Amna roy that you will typhoon maralmay ma weather prepare aigal conditions. Tiang amlet tropical storm. Almelmer bebut erwept kul mo typhoon mandibla katte eleden mo aigal conditions. Adi armari kilmara condition 2. O isay ako amlok lakakaro sa response matete la subo del tiagi del el gukti kam lomre kal alyolto.
If I may, sige del Friday, Thursday, Gimulu NEC meeting of Sir President Ramyuns, we were still on a tropical storm watch. Sige del afternoon at 3 p.m. Tirab na upgrade rin mo tropical storm warning. Sige del ututar, sige del same mabal ututar 1 a.m. Kadam na typhoon watch. We were working within 12 hours. So what okum kadam most condition kadam na condition 1. unfortunately hindi kalsab edel di ito di kyuk mula se akadang condition one lega ngarnya at lang tangil SWC wasit yamanal may mo kadomes ringin at adori 6:24 ma 12 hours. That was the reason why hindi lagi borsel other belaw amadangalil wase gira dan nga condition. So I got close to tell, of course I'm happy to say that other bela understand I can condition this lalbor segidel because of time and lamo dia kate ledel ay srablu la se akadam lamo mereka nga condition telang ra amla memol telal hours lamo gira di waya intention gid ma focus gid di more safety ra adrablu before we say akadang condition telang focus gid di lamo gira di ay sula se tiang mga eridel mga klisiel magi inform ako mina sa lamo gira dal mga mo korgit may gigid ako lagi muliak ni although ba gigid special weather statement del morabalu.
Sabi kal ito on Mr. President. So kal amoy gigid the weather statement mo support ay kalmam mo. Sira 10 p.m. Thursday, April 15, 2021. Sel le lultabadi ra 10 p.m. ra Thursday evening. Akmul wasya ta-update travel wasya tropical storm Surangel maintain a maximum winds ra 60 miles per hour slowly moving west at speed of 3 miles per hour over the water. Tagida ko ra mal so kal emphasize rin. Tropical storm Surangel is expected to intensify and become a typhoon Friday afternoon once it has moved away from Palau. It is currently located about 90 miles northeast of Cagayan State and 150 miles northeast of Core State. Ang next update, 1 a.m. Sige din ako tolang nga. Yung wasi. Updating the public that Tropical Storm Surangel is intensifying with maximum sustained winds of 65 miles per hour and expected to become a typhoon within the next 12 hours. Tiagit selo sa rin Ngrirep ta 1 a.m. kita arsel 12 hours na mo tiam a typhoon. 1 a.m. Adam iway wa namusta tam si sayol tang maringirgit orto da ay sen more adrablu. 4 a.m. nga hit ta segi del typhoon. Segi di ay ringa dem lakal merigit din tisel eltel. Segi nga kakanbin ra NEC. Mang akti support tay ga lolkol wasing tegi del tora kondisyon na at expecto la setya me pasargid ra Friday afternoon o rin nga kabarul drop me tegi del trajectory ko amiral merio ma 1 a.m. ang within 12 hours ma condition 1 condition.
Sumusula, Madam Vice President.
Maybe kwadi so kal help persegid the discussion. Ako maral wase maybe something we can improve on. Aktir kam nas kaya ni silo wase maybe kawada get lessons learned ra yel ukla da desal later to the trial improve. I think most importantly there's always a risk wase tiam typhoon. So we should let our people know wase tia sa mo typhoon ahead of time so they're always prepared because there's always that risk and it can change in a matter of malgikadable time and I think siya lo hotel lang ak pleasure mo gila ni sila temle they called me sel director of education amle ko lo ase kada close school aklo sel afternoon or Thursday makasing nga procedure gid kada close school gida na typhoon well de ka typhoon makasing de ka sa close school we need advice lo ase kada more say gid but I think we should always be prepared for the worst case. And I think maybe something that we've learned, and hopefully, the day before, typhoon, just be prepared. It's better to be safe than sorry. We have to be prepared for so long again, and I think I'm sure NEC how do we improve for the next storm. Sula,
Mr. Presidente, tilang Dura ini simul beradias mul sodo tri radias.
Dak mal giran malungil
Mr. President, ngani atul industri belal ko asuri adalul giser el time. Makata taluriore dal begis. Oriora agriculture, oriora fishing. Betul agam das kumal maklau tutrera time dia ada belau. Dia ngari pandemik dia kau tu belau. Pertama kerang sutira ada belau musbil diti. Kekora dia kan minister belum appointed in mortial ministry. Ngari aku ral desuem girel appointment ada mortial rual.
Malungil ger mal duli trak loreng ada rablu kadangara reorganization yes selmo besen clara ministry mo agriculture fisheries and environment le kadang moral wase kadang mau blad obes wase ya se aurere sel ministry close to tela really the increase of production ara apelwat ay gira gora ay sara uk maral may but ngari aurere la lo mangela blue rashabal They will help Pergidal. Not only are they helping us at aquaculture, but now they're planning to help us at agriculture. So next month they mo sign a MOU lo bantarir. There's a look ministry agriculture ma forestry shabala mo help Pergid. El supplement the current program Pergid. Dirigal gale directora agriculture ul mugamara tutana meeting e ulai se look program ra 50 householder bela mo satar mo ramal. Dirigal help para agal, dirigal help para tokora series legal dila malaga will dolabal mangayas. That's a program that's already ongoing, and so it's increasing sel production as a cloud to tell. Kada dirigal lombra lo ase sel dongura omnger gida at the end of the day giran ngari buyers, giran sustainable legal the ngara el malay. Mang akmaya sir fisherman na ngara hindi maral mo so sir mal maklo ice pack se mal klo aralangi gel ma before ka send them outside there am na stop export hindi belaw mga attribable help rigidel el generate a fish tax rigidel mutrom grol but ngira del manglor sel tora aquaculture and I think most importantly aquaculture that provides high value and income al morara mungira del mal mo ngilo mas hotel rabbit fish ma aul from what I know tora aul angel most profitable part ra aul angel sel fingerling adol targin waul sel mo gorun mo tun de ka sol mangari mal you know akal sibula mal mililiw te low value so we need to come up with production that actually is sustainable and really makes money so people can earn a decent income. And that's why I shared this last press conference about Taiwan. Itiga ba yung mukro la ara pro ma ngel bring ara lingil 100 tala imo. I mean that's what we should be thinking about. Ngaram de kadong mukro la mam makamduk lega valuable ngil. Ngaram ko ngara rabbit fish. You know, we need to change our thinking and look at better ways. So there's improvement needed. Sulang ra will get and we need to work with them and help us tirmo. Deklara minister, president ta current minister. Sulang.
Landing ko ra di kaya ta mesin sakot tilgari nga pala di council yak musil hotel lastel. Okay. Algok follow up para selgera o album mudolong la ko kamera osisulan but since yung long di ko back al morsel al dilia vice president was ngarang ya 50,000 and yes suma 100,000 I understand da lima ay dali sa bayak nyo law lang alega vice president temlo nga sir ada ko state maral obli marusel IVA makada rirang sa korabat to korabal gire la preparedness will let the public be the judge of that the question na kasi lang ngarang ya at tirigel adal I know adal lang atleta ko tigi del ngara al mal matamalin tigi di ngarang tirigel adal toralimle destroy the bleed completely blodia mang ilalsil sing takuraw tabra ngaringar la ramulak pagpilay kalbil o sure kiringir ilal time ma question nga kasi ilal lakaw daw de kami mo sa takuran sang ngara plan ra government especially trigay del adal milt na malabliri kadan mugtun mo malang daw don mo nga sir tiral ubeng kadimilay kay gidal ngesu kumsula
kamal masara ngilkere olgil kotal ke karir member apala media console ay koram let touch upon it nga ma present earlier koram lat ko was tirigay dek mal nga sol tirlay gidel nga evacuation centers ling dia kadalang clear matamalamol nga evacuation centers dia ludo dal tartal telal ako marang waseng mogut maklisig tirigel support ra evacuate tirigel nga evacuation centers maldo do ase babo da chekara Red Cross or basing si el kurang ari yang eso el top der se yid ludo dara a Red Cross el kura saba akartire gid tongir sel mal kura mo final report se yid el comprehensive damage assessment di gamal masaw se yid lurere di tal koro state lul nga sew el maral el interview ra household alin di tal koro state el angabi ko sa takmal botol avel al sel orior dirga kabol marek segi tielwa reporter tirle ta dirga marael el survey ay gel dolong okle makmalogi utia orang asulir rogoy el state employees el mar volunteers lo ng sorte ay del assessment leng mlaringar mlera sirey belogel mo komtelal adal kerse yang ara amit mal rabla mangbral wal kora mal komakay ay gel question sertir mang mal mo subi irelo utia maral picture sel talmalel tay gidial typhoon na surigay
sula olgorilang ulang kita mulai press conference kita di blol over 1 hour so almost 2 hours di important تقريبا كده يريد المال مصوب غلطير تريجل قطر متعرف السرير and I think our first line of defense of course in Red Cross and so hopefully تمسك 100,000 ترى لو طاو تريجي المال لو سبعين يسون كده مدينة أساس بابلعات first step Red Cross then I get ono marigil program lang ariya sa nga isa program na pala housing el ukal partigida way tigida lat but sa degal stop government rosiga uppe birate al dirigal help ay family mga sa da uror sulang na malungil karim sum la modiage boranex Bernadette again okay
making up for last week
yeah Mr. President, you said that the devastation might not be as big as Haiyan, if I understand you right.
Correct.
But this event still takes a toll on people. So I was wondering, because the general sentiment is almost everyone was caught off guard by the path of the typhoon Surangel. So were you prepared yourself? Were you caught off guard? And also to the Vice President and NEMO, I think the kind of communication people wanted was to tell them, get off the road, close the school, store water, don't drive. I think that is the kind of communication that they wanted to hear. So is there a protocol that triggers that kind of communication? Because sometimes in the media, sometimes when you write a story, you have to know your audience. So how do you communicate to an audience that doesn't understand trade winds, doesn't understand the storm jargon? So how do you trigger that protocol?
No, that's a very good question, Bernadette, and I think I answered it in Palawan. But most importantly, personally, yes, I was maybe not as prepared. If you go to my house, my chairs were scattered all over the yard and things broke. But I was reading the reports, and the report said 39 miles an hour. That's the Palawan. Yeah. So I think, read the reports, that's what we expect. But it escalated. And I think what we've learned is that we should always remind people that these storms can turn into typhoons. So it's better to be safe than sorry. I'll just give you an example. I used to live in Malakal, so Friday morning I happened to drive over there, and I went to where my brother Eric lives now, and the whole dock was removed, and they actually put it between the rock islands. And I give credit to Seaboy for being prepared, because when I go, the dock would have been totally destroyed. So that's the kind of, and Wednesday he already removed it and put it away. So I mean, because it could always turn into a typhoon. I asked him why. He said, because you don't know. So we have to be prepared. And I think that's just a message that we shouldn't have to wait for weather to tell us. We should see that it's windy and stormy. We should be safe and start acting accordingly. I mean, there's only so much media, so much radio, so much everything that can out there. So sometimes we also have to take responsibility. So I'm not blaming NEMO for my chairs all over the yard and broken tables and whatever. I should have saw it's windy, and I probably should have taken more care. And my wife always reminds me, I told you, but and that's we have to I think see the science and act accordingly. And sometimes we take things for granted, and we all have to work together. It's everybody's responsibility, and really working with the state governments, getting the word out there, and just reminding people. And thank you.
So thank you, Bernadette, for your question. I think other thing, Chief of Staff, the special weather statement, and with what the President has said, we probably need to add another line to say, and always be prepared. But the public was reminded to secure any loose items around the residences and to take precautions when driving for possible flooding, landslide, mudslides, and debris. So that was in the updates, weather updates. But I think what the President has said is very true, and we should have added and always be prepared, because this could turn into a typhoon.
And what time was that update?
This was at 3 o'clock, 10 p.m., even before then. So it was always kind of there, but thank you. So another lesson learned. So we're moving forward. NEC will be adding observations and experiences encountered during this storm. Sula.
Bernadette, I chuckled a little bit when you asked if the President was prepared. Early Friday morning, as soon as the sun rose and there was a little daylight, all communication was down. And I was freaking out that we had no communication. And so I had to make a gamble whether to drive while there were trees falling to the President's house to get him in contact with NEC. So I think none of us saw this, but we all tried our best with what we had.
Thank you.
And I know that people are really suffering, especially there was no power, no communication. So it's true. I drove to NEC in the morning because that's the only way I could communicate. There was no way to communicate, and we still don't have proper cell service. It's kind of working on and off. Ingat pang. That's seguro honto mong tingin mo da. Madingi mong malemayo del May, but it's okay. We understand. We understand, because most importantly, I know people were really upset that why is PUC skipped our house and they went all the way to Maralong, but what PUC wanted to make sure is most importantly is get water to everybody, and that's why they concentrated on the main lines, and some of us that were not on the main lines came later, and we understand that, and I think we need to really thank them for their trying to prioritize and get everything done. And I know there's probably still today there's people still without power, but they're working hard to try to get it fixed. So let's just remember them and not give them too much of a hard time. Lastly, Okay, one more question. Everybody had the last question, so you can have another last question.
I might as well. Lelani recline. I don't mind being a senior. Diaka really way off. Kamana to a question kita tell storm. The last question, the president. Kumkuram la Mr. Sella algira la export tra marine resource. Lo sengani abol affect ringi tel. Trulle la sa moment kora anticipate ringi la June or July.
Yeah, so long on a weird question, and our legal counsel is reviewing it at the moment. So if an amendment is required, we have to do it. Sula. Namuda question. Okay, me de un teal ngaring tugubet sils. Arba baby ramal batatalo ragabalment el no. So I think it's important that we recognize it here. Another year of life. Yeah, that's always, we should be thankful for that. Mangara MOE ngaray trir ogotol. Dire ngara MOE John Seat Kell. Ngara MOH Helen George. Dire ngara MCCA Bebolinda Florencio. De ngara MOJ Ditz Rangel. Dire ngara MOJ Sanya Olgrin. MOE again, Earl Britannico, Michael Motura, MCCA. Trigaya uka tugubet sel sirtire lang. Let's wish them all a happy birthday. A happy Earth Day. We have to be thankful, Rabbalwad, and as good stewards, we should always try to protect it. Preserve it, and for our generations to come, and do our part to combat climate change. So, retirement. No. Okay. Lastly, this one what tell me sulara olvira golo Senate. I'm confirm Mr. Santi Sanuma, alngia mo bes el Postmaster General. Mlegirel 11 o'clock at the end of the press conference, and mlamo 12 o'clock mo mal sulang. Sulang la mal di mo mlamo temela lunch mo. Sulang. Minister, please mga udo.
Oy. Ala nang arteta missile transfer.
So mi nga siya sing. Sorry. Der. Oh.
Turn around the Minister of Finance.
Mo, ay galong ire le goro.
And also.
Yeah. Make sure nga security lo mo gyud man marayan. Sula.